You know that moment. You walk out to your tomatoes on a summer morning, expecting to harvest the fruit you have been watching grow for weeks. And instead of perfect red tomatoes ready to pick, you find them split open, cracked down the side, skin pulled apart, seeds exposed. And not just one, half of them. The whole plant, weeks of watering, weeks of feeding, weeks of tying and training and watching. And in one day, or after one heavy rain, they split. I spent 3 growing seasons losing tomatoes to this exact problem. Every year I blamed the weather. The rain came too hard and too fast. The heat was too intense. The variety was wrong. Every year I tried something different. New variety, different fertilizer, more shade cloth. And every year, the same split tomatoes. And then I found out the truth. And the truth made me genuinely angry. Not because it was complicated, because it was simple. Because I had been fixing the wrong thing for 3 years. And nobody, not a single gardening guide, not a single seed packet, not a single YouTube video I watched, told me what was actually happening inside that tomato every time it split. This video is that information. By the time you finish watching, you will understand exactly why your tomatoes split, exactly what is happening at the cellular level when they do, and exactly how to stop it permanently. Not with a spray, not with an expensive product, with a change in one thing you are already doing. Stay with me, because at minute 10, I'm going to show you something about calcium that most gardeners have never heard of, and it is going to completely change how you think about watering. And I have saved a full list of crack-resistant tomato varieties for the very end, because even with perfect technique, some varieties will always give you less splitting than others. Let's get into it. Before I get into the science, one quick thing. If you found this video because you are tired of losing harvests to problems nobody properly explains, this channel is built for you. Every week, we cover the specific things that go wrong in real gardens. Not the textbook explanations that skip the detail that actually matters, but the exact mechanism, the exact fix, and the exact technique that changes the result. If that is the kind of gardening content you are looking for, hit subscribe right now. The bell too if you want to make sure you catch every video. It is free. It takes 3 seconds. And after this video, you are going to understand your tomatoes better than you have in any previous season. Subscribe. Then let's talk about what is actually happening inside that tomato. Before I tell you what causes the split, let me show you the full cost of what most gardeners are actually doing about it. Because most of what is sold as a solution to tomato splitting is either wrong, incomplete, or treating the symptom rather than the cause. The variety chase. Every year, millions of gardeners switch tomato varieties trying to find one that does not split. They buy crack-resistant varieties. They try different sizes. They go from beefsteak to cherry to Roma to heirloom, and many of them still split. Because the variety is the last variable that matters. The first variable, the one that determines whether any tomato on any plant splits, has nothing to do with the variety. The weather excuse. Most gardeners blame rain. A heavy downpour arrives, tomatoes split, the rain did it. Except, gardens that receive identical rainfall in identical conditions produce dramatically different results, depending on one factor that has nothing to do with how much rain fell. The rain is not the cause. The rain is the trigger that reveals the cause that was already present. The product trap. Adding calcium sprays or supplements rarely fixes the splitting problem if watering is still inconsistent. Every year, gardeners buy calcium sprays, calcium supplements, bone meal, crushed eggshells, layering products onto a problem that products cannot fix. Not because calcium does not matter. Calcium matters enormously. We are going to talk about exactly why in a few minutes. But calcium in a spray bottle does almost nothing useful when the underlying problem is still active. The product industry has no incentive to tell you that. The watering schedule that fixes this costs nothing. The frustration cycle. And this is the one that compounds every year. You lose tomatoes in season 1. You try something new in season 2. You lose tomatoes again. You try something else in season 3. Each season costs you time, seed investment, water, fertilizer, and the specific produce you were counting on to either eat or sell. Over 3 seasons of tomato growing, the 3 seasons I lost to this problem before I understood it, A rough calculation puts the wasted effort at approximately 180 hours of growing time. Hundreds of split tomatoes that either had to be eaten immediately before they rotted or thrown away entirely, and a gradually deepening belief that tomatoes were just difficult. They are not difficult. I was just fixing the wrong thing. Let me show you the right thing. Here is exactly what is happening inside a tomato when it splits. Not the vague explanation, but saying the specific biological mechanism. The skin problem. A tomato skin and a tomato fruit are two different tissues growing at two different rates. The fruit, the flesh and juice inside, responds rapidly to water availability. When water is suddenly abundant after a dry period, the fruit takes it up fast. The cells expand quickly. The volume of the fruit increases. The skin does not respond as quickly. After a dry spell, the plant can uptake too much water and overwhelm the fruit, causing splitting. The skin simply cannot expand fast enough to accommodate the rapid internal expansion of the fruit. The skin was growing at one rate during the dry period. The fruit is now growing at a faster rate after the watering. The skin tears, that is the split, every single time. The calcium connection. Here's the part most gardening guides skip entirely, and the detail I promised you at minute 10. Inconsistent watering is the main cause of calcium deficiency in tomatoes. Calcium moves through the plant via water uptake. Wide fluctuations in soil moisture reduce the plant's ability to take up calcium from the soil. Calcium is not just a soil nutrient. It is the structural compound that builds cell walls inside the tomato skin and fruit. More calcium will ensure that the cell wall that makes up the thin tomato skin is thicker and more elastic, just in case of a sudden burst of water. A tomato plant with consistent access to calcium, delivered through consistent water uptake, builds skin cells that are thicker, more elastic, and more able to stretch rapidly when water availability suddenly increases. A tomato plant with inconsistent watering has inconsistent calcium uptake. Its skin cells are thinner, less elastic, less able to accommodate rapid expansion. The same rain, the same watering event. One plant splits, the other does not. The difference is not the water. It is the cell wall strength that was built, or not built, in the weeks before that water arrived. The underlying causes of tomato splitting and blossom end rot are associated with perturbed calcium homeostasis and irregular watering conditions. Calcium is a nutrient with poor mobility. It cannot be moved from older parts of the plant to newer ones once it has been deposited. The developing fruit has to get its calcium from the current water supply every single day. Read that again. Every single day. Not twice a week. Not when you remember. Not when the soil looks dry. Every day. The cell walls forming in your tomato fruit today are built from the calcium transported by the water you apply today. If today is a dry day, those cell walls are thinner than they should be. And when the water comes back tomorrow, or when the rain comes, those thinner walls cannot stretch fast enough. And the tomato splits. This is not bad luck. This is biology, and biology is fixable. The cause of your splitting tomatoes is not the rain. It is not the variety. It is not the calcium level in your soil. It is the pattern of your watering. Specifically, the flood and drought cycle. The pattern that almost every gardener creates without realizing it. Water heavily on Monday. Skip Tuesday because it looks fine. Skip Wednesday. Water heavily again on Thursday. Forget Friday, Saturday, another heavy water. The soil goes from wet to dry in irregular cycles. And every single time the soil goes from dry to suddenly wet, the tomato fruit expands faster than the skin can follow. And it splits. After a dry spell, the plant can uptake too much water and overwhelm the fruit, causing splitting. Watering the base of the plant regularly during hot summer days is your key preventative method here. This will also help the plant not become overwhelmed in the instance of a sudden downpour. Here is the thing that made me genuinely angry when I finally understood this. The fix is not expensive. The fix does not require a product. The fix does not require a different variety, or a different bed, or a different soil mix. The fix is consistency, the same amount of water, every day, or as close to every day as your schedule allows. Not more water, not less water. The same water, on the same schedule. That single change in the timing and regularity of watering is the difference between a tomato that splits and one that does not. I spent 3 years buying new varieties and new products when the answer was in the schedule the whole time. Now I am going to give you the complete system. The fix is a system, not a single action. 3 layers, each one adds protection. Together, they make splitting almost impossible. Fix Layer 1. Consistent watering schedule. This is the foundation. Nothing else works without this. Overall, tomato plants need about 1 inch of water, approximately 0.6 gallons per square foot per week. Water consistently and evenly. If you forget to water, do not overwater to compensate. That last sentence is the most important one. If you miss a day, do not flood the plant the next day to make up for it. Give it the same amount it would have received the day before. Then, the same amount the day after. The math of water delivery matters less than the consistency of delivery. A tomato plant receiving 0.4 gallons every day is dramatically less likely to split than a tomato plant receiving 2.8 gallons once a week, even though the total water is identical. The daily plant has consistent calcium uptake. The weekly plant has a feast and famine cycle. Do not let your tomatoes get bone dry before you water them. Give them frequent, regular water to slowly expand the tomato. Practical schedule. In ground or raised beds, water deeply once daily in hot weather above 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Every other day in moderate temperatures below 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Container tomatoes. Water daily without exception. Containers dry out significantly faster than in-ground plants, and the flood and drought cycle is more severe and more rapid in pots. The finger test. Push your index finger 1 to 2 inches into the soil at the base of the plant. If it feels damp, they are fine. If it feels dry, water now. It is okay for the foliage to show early signs of wilting before watering, but you do not want to push it too far. Fix Layer 2. Mulching for moisture. Consistency. Consistent watering is significantly easier when the soil holds moisture consistently between waterings. Mulch is the tool that makes consistency achievable even when your schedule is imperfect. Use mulches to retain soil moisture during dry periods. A 2 to 3 inch layer of straw, shredded leaves, or wood chip mulch placed around the base of your tomato plants, keeping it 2 inches away from the stem, reduces evaporation from the soil surface by 50 to 70% in hot summer conditions. What this means practically: on a 90-degree Fahrenheit day, unmulched soil can lose significant moisture within 4 to 6 hours of watering. The same soil under straw mulch holds that moisture for 12 to 18 hours. The gap between your watering events narrows in terms of soil moisture impact. A plant watered every other day with mulch experiences less moisture fluctuation than a plant watered daily without mulch. Mulch is not optional if you want consistent calcium uptake. It is the tool that makes the watering schedule work even when life gets in the way. Cost: a bale of straw from a farm supply store runs $6 to $10. It covers approximately 4 to 6 tomato plants at the recommended depth. Fix Layer 3. Calcium support. Once your watering is consistent, then calcium supplementation becomes worth considering. Not before. Fix your watering consistency and the problem resolves in the next fruit set. You will see the difference in 10 to 14 days. If you have corrected your watering and mulching and still experience splitting on a small percentage of fruit, a soil calcium addition can provide the additional cell wall strength that reduces residual splitting. Add a natural source of calcium such as lime, bone meal, or finely crushed eggshells. Trifecta blend with gypsum, dolomitic lime, and bone meal are all great sources of calcium. More calcium will ensure that the cell wall that makes up the thin tomato skin is thicker and more elastic. Application: work 1 cup of crushed eggshells or 1 tablespoon of garden lime into the soil around each plant at the start of the season. This is a slow-release calcium source that works over the entire growing window, not a quick spray fix. A calcium boost and consistent watering together produce results visible in 10 to 14 days. The new fruits will come through strong. Do these 3 things together: consistent watering, mulch, soil calcium, and your splitting problem will be reduced dramatically. Here is the complete implementation guide. Everything in one place. Nothing vague. This weekend, immediate actions. 1. Apply 2 to 3 inches of straw mulch around every tomato plant today. Keep it 2 inches back from the stem. This single action starts protecting your consistency immediately. 2. Set a daily watering reminder on your phone. Same time every day. Morning is best. It gives leaves time to dry before nightfall, reducing disease pressure. Consistency of timing matters almost as much as consistency of volume. 3. Do the finger test every morning before watering. Index finger, 1 to 2 inches into soil. Damp? Skip today. Dry? Water now. Always use the test rather than a fixed volume schedule because environmental factors change the amount your plant actually needs. If rain is forecast, if you are expecting a storm and your tomatoes have already started to blush, pluck them a little early and let them ripen off the vine to avoid them taking up excess moisture. This single action, harvesting ripening tomatoes before a heavy rain rather than after, eliminates rain-triggered splitting completely. A tomato that is 80% ripe will ripen fully indoors in 2 to 3 days on a counter. A tomato left on the vine through a heavy rain risks splitting regardless of how consistently you have watered. Watch the forecast. Harvest early before heavy rain events. This is the fastest single change you can make that produces the most immediate result. If splitting has already occurred, while they might not look as pretty, splitting does not make tomatoes inedible. If a split occurs, harvest and enjoy them before the bugs do. Split tomatoes that are harvested immediately are perfectly safe to eat. The split exposes the interior to bacteria and insects. Harvest same day, cut away the split portion, and use the rest. Do not leave split tomatoes on the vine. The 10 to 14 day window. Once you implement consistent watering and mulching, do not expect the current tomatoes on the vine to immediately change. The fruit already setting has cell walls already formed. The change shows up in the next generation of fruit set, the flowers that open over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Those flowers will form fruit with consistent calcium delivery from day 1 of their development. Those fruits will have thicker, more elastic skin. Those fruits will not split. Consistent watering today protects the tomatoes you cannot see yet. That is the window. Give it 10 to 14 days and watch the difference. I promised you a variety list. Here it is the specific tomato varieties that are bred for thicker, more elastic skin and documented crack resistance. These varieties do not make consistent watering unnecessary, but they give you an extra margin of protection when your schedule gets disrupted, and they produce visibly less splitting than standard varieties under identical conditions. Split-resistant tomato plant varieties are a little more forgiving. If you are not around your garden as often or have to do more infrequent watering, then planting varieties that are less likely to crack gives you some extra insurance. Many bush-style determinate tomatoes are crack-resistant, but not all. The verified crack-resistant variety list: ACE 55, low acidity, superior drought resistance, excellent crack resistance. One of the most reliable home garden varieties for split-prone climates. Determinate, celebrity, classic home garden tomato. Consistent performer, documented crack resistance, reliable and variable watering conditions, semi-determinate. Mountain Fresh Plus, specifically bred for crack and disease resistance. High yield, meaty texture, very low split rate. Jet Star, low acid, mild flavor, outstanding crack resistance. One of the most widely recommended varieties for gardeners who have struggled with splitting. Big Beef, that large beefsteak type with documented resistance to cracking. The most popular beefsteak variety in the U.S. for consistent reason. Lemon Boy, yellow variety with notably thick skin and excellent crack resistance. Lower acidity than red varieties. Sweet 100 Cherry. Cherry tomatoes split more rarely than large varieties due to smaller fruit volume. Sweet 100 has additional crack resistance. Indeterminate, produces continuously. Sun Gold Cherry. Same principle as Sweet 100. Exceptionally productive, outstanding flavor, very low split rate. For gardeners in climates with heavy summer rainfall, cherry tomato varieties as a baseline, with Celebrity or Jet Star for larger fruit, gives you the best possible defense against splitting even in challenging conditions. Plant crack-resistant varieties and implement consistent watering, and splitting becomes a minor inconvenience rather than a season-long frustration. Go back to where we started. That split tomato on the vine. Weeks of work. One crack. Wasted fruit. That is not inevitable. That is a watering pattern. And watering patterns are the one thing in your garden entirely within your control. Not the weather, not the rain, not the variety you planted last spring. The schedule, the consistency, the mulch that holds moisture between waterings, the calcium in the soil that builds elastic skin every day that water moves through the plant. 3 seasons I lost tomatoes to this before I understood the mechanism. Once I understood it, I have not lost a tomato to splitting since. Not because I became a better gardener in some abstract sense, because I watered on a consistent schedule and put straw mulch around the base of the plant. That is the entire change. If this video gave you something you needed, something that explains 3 seasons of frustration in a way nothing else did, hit the like button. It tells YouTube this information is worth finding, which means more gardeners find it before they lose another season to splitting. And if you have not subscribed yet, now's the time. Because next week we are covering the second most common tomato problem that ruins harvests. And if you are dealing with splitting, there is a high chance you are also dealing with the other one. Subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss it. One specific problem. One specific fix. Every single week. That is what this channel is. And before you go, one question, one word in the comments. Did you fix it? Or are you still losing tomatoes? Fixed. Drop it below. Still losing? Drop that too, and tell me your watering schedule. I will reply with the specific adjustment for your situation. I read every single comment. Now go check your tomatoes.